Hi, my name is Andy Coppins or Andrea Coppins. I have one child. I'm 42 years old and originally I'm from Australia. Currently work for a French fashion designer based here in London. I support him on a day-to-day level in every aspect, whether it's personal or business. I fell into working in fashion, I guess, quite organically. I had the opportunity to work for a shoe company, which really sort of opened the doors to other companies and other brands. I have always been interested in fashion. It's something that has always really kind of been, I guess, a passion of mine, not to sound too cheesy, but it's something that I've always really sort of enjoyed and really loved. And I had this opportunity, which I thought would be great, and I could utilize my skill set from previous jobs in this role. So it was a great crossover in that respect without necessarily coming from a design background. The name of my business is Momokoko, and I think what it really represents is sort of my love of all things bright and happy, which I think really when I was dressing my child every day, or making his bedroom a happy place, that there really wasn't a lot out there in the sort of retail world that I could find that I liked. And my son always well, growing up, couldn't really, from a young age, say his name, which is Milo. It was always, he called himself Momo, and I just thought that was really sweet. And I really, because the essence of the brand is about here, well, about our lives and what we like, and my sort of aesthetic and his aesthetic, that I thought it would be nice to sort of use him as the sort of basis of the name. So that's where Momo came from. And then I was trying to think of something that would go with Momo that would sort of has that a bit of that kind of cool sort of tropical, happy, laid back vibe, and that's where Coco came from. So it came together as Momokoko. Beginning of April, I found myself on furlough, and going from a very busy sort of 10 to 6 working job. In fact, obviously more hours than that even, coming out of Fashion Week, and then suddenly finding myself not really having a lot to do. I sort of I guess I did a bit of soul searching and thought, what is it that I do really want to do with my life? I've now got this opportunity, don't know how long we're going to be in this situation for. So I've always on the back burner had an idea or a bit of a dream about having my own children's wear brand. And I thought, look, this is probably the time now, if there is ever going to be a time where I could potentially put it out into the world. And I really sort of used my love of fashion, which was, something that I was doing for somebody else, and use the knowledge that I'd learned, use the just all the experience that I'd had over the last sort of like 10 years working in fashion, and just use that for myself really. And I had the opportunity to just bring it out into the world, and take my love of fashion and my son, and bring it all together, mold it all together, and just make it happen. So I think the challenges that women face in the workplace, whether you are a single young woman, whether you're a mother of five, happily married, or whether you're a single mum, or even whether, like you're getting towards like, your later, like not later years, but you know what I mean, you're sort of changing career, etc. I think the main challenge is, well, especially for working mums, is definitely childcare. I was quite naive coming in, well, not necessarily naive, but coming into having a child, in terms of um, the the there were all these systems in place for us to just be able to have a child and go back to work, because that's what everybody does. Therefore, I just thought that it was easy because everybody did it. I was in for a shock. So that's one challenge. And I think the other challenge is that you either have to make a decision in a lot of ways. you either decide that you want to have a family, in which case you potentially, put your career on hold, and then it takes longer to get back to where you were before you had the child, and then you might not necessarily be able to move as far up the ladder as you'd like to because you have other responsibilities, or that you just don't go back to work because the balance is too hard to manage, or you don't have a family, or you just don't do it because you're like, right, well, I want to be successful, and this is the sacrifice I need to make. So I think for women, it's just sacrifice anyway. Either way, that is what the main struggle is. There is no in the current, well, I mean, even in the past, like, there is no current structure in place for women to be able to do what we do easily, and it is sacrifice. And sadly, that's not necessarily always the case for men, because they don't necessarily always take on that. They don't take on that sort of mothering role. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen by any means, because it does, and we know that. But I'm sure if they were then to try and return to the workplace but had to say, sorry, I have to leave at 3 to pick my child up from school because there's no after school activities, then it's going to pretty much affect their career. I mean, it's mind blowing, really. I think the biggest struggle that I have as a working parent is the self-care aspect. I think that, as I said earlier, like, there's definitely a sort of a running order of who comes first in my life, and sadly, I'm not the top of it. And without that, I feel, which is something that I am really trying to work on and work with, is that my son doesn't necessarily always get the the mum that's perhaps as happy as she should be, or as, carefree or whatnot. And obviously there comes a lot of guilt with that, but we're all human, and, you can only do what you have in your sort of toolbox to sort of make that work. But whatever it be, like, I don't know, like, to say to somebody, to me, is quite, it gets me a bit angry. It's like, oh, what top tips do you have, to make your life easy? And, whether it's like, batch cooking, or whether it's, like, I don't know, sleeping when your child's sleeping, or, all of these tips, we don't necessarily give them to men, and we don't necessarily, like, sort of, we focus too much on, like, that domestic side of things, when actually we should be focusing inside. And, I, for one, want my child to grow up remembering his mum as being independent and happy and living the life that she wants to live, not being this shell of a human being that's running around trying to keep a perfect house, who's trying to prepare these gourmet meals every night, and to, have a perfect makeup. I want him to remember the good times, sort of like the real mum, as opposed to, somebody that's just not present, really. So yeah, look after yourself. That's one, in every way, but mostly, within and your mind, because without that, you got nothing. Anthony Joshua. Sex. Beer. Oh, next.